Security seeking reinstatement of their immigration status after it was allegedly terminated without proper notice or explanation. US Vice President J.D. Vance and the second family will travel to India and Italy from the 18th of this month until the 24th of April. The Vice President will discuss shared economic and geopolitical priorities with leaders in both the countries, and J.D. Vance will meet Prime Minister Modi on the 21st of April. Iran is dangerously close to developing an atomic weapon. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency has warned. Countries have approved a landmark global pandemic treaty after 3 years of talks and without the US's participation. The UK Supreme Court has ruled that woman refers to biological sex in the Equality Act 2010, excluding transgender women from legal protections in single-sex spaces. Well, our big focus today, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni will become the first European leader to meet with US President Donald Trump since the White House imposed those sweeping reciprocal tariffs on virtually all of its trading partners. Her Oval Office meeting will represent a litmus test for the future of US-European relations as Brussels gambles on Meloni's friendly relationship with Donald Trump to secure a trade deal. But for further clarity on how this may pan out, we have with us at the moment Daniel Block. Daniel, always a pleasure to have you on our show. Has there been any indication from Trump's camp about his openness to Meloni's arguments on tariffs ahead of this meeting, and any shift in tone from previous EU meetings?
So far, we haven't heard anything different from Trump, really, than what Trump has been saying before, which is that he feels like the United States is being treated unfairly, that it's being treated unfairly by all countries, including those in Europe. Now, as you rightfully noted, Meloni is thought of as the European leader closest to Trump. They're both right-wing populists in many ways. They like to talk about railing against the global elite. They like to talk about cracking down on migration, and they've praised one another. So in some ways, what this is going to be is really a test of the extent to which personal diplomacy can affect Trump's trade calculations. And it didn't at all, as we saw the first time when tariffs were rolled out. Right. There was no relationship, it seemed, between how much Trump liked a particular leader and the tariff rates that that country received. But now that the reciprocal tariffs have been walked back, that it's just a flat 10% tariff across most countries, and countries have been invited to bargain and barter with Trump for more favorable deals, we're going to see whether that personal connection and that personal touch can pay off.
Right, indeed. We will be keeping a close eye on all the finer developments. But some analysts, meanwhile, Daniel, argue that Trump's apparent preference to Meloni, it signals a shift towards bilateralism over multilateral EU engagement. What's your take?
I think that it's true that Trump is always somebody who has preferred engaging with other states one-on-one. And I see that as an extension of his enjoyment of personal diplomacy. The fact that he likes meeting with another leader one-on-one and hashing things out in that way. So I think that's true. I think we're seeing a more bilateral approach to international relations under Trump than we saw under Biden. And I would add, I think that's broader to Republican administrations versus Democratic ones. Democratic administrations tend to enjoy operating in multilateral coalitions. Right. They like striking kind of broader deals that involve a multitude of countries. Republican presidents, this is not universal, I want to be clear, but they do tend to enjoy working more one-on-one with other states.
Right, so while Brussels is gambling on this Meloni-Trump meeting to secure a trade deal, some are also worried that the far-right leader could prioritize Italy's interests over the European Union's. What's your take on that?
I think that that is a real fear, and that fear is, it's partially justified in reality, but there's also reasons to be optimistic.
Right.
Now, the reason it's justified in reality is Meloni has not always been the most friendly leader to the European Union, particularly when she was campaigning for prime minister some time ago. For a while, she came up actually railing against the EU. And it's worth noting, too, that her country, Italy, is a country that would be uniquely and disproportionately affected by tariffs relative even to other countries in Europe. So for those reasons, I think the fears are warranted. If you're looking for reasons for optimism, it's that since coming to power, Meloni has kind of refashioned herself not as a Eurosceptic, but as a leader within the EU. She's somebody who has taken a very aggressive pro-Ukraine stance, has tried to rally support for Kiev among other European countries. And as we understand it, she has been in contact with other European leaders into the lead up to this trip. So
Right.
I think there's also reasons to hope that she will, in addition to representing Italy's interests, also have some reason to look out for the rest of Europe. But again, we'll find out.
Of course, Daniel, and we'll keep in touch with you for regular updates regarding this meeting and how it plays out. Thanks so much, as always, for making time for us. Meanwhile, the World Trade Organization sharply cut its forecast for global merchandise trade from solid growth to a decline on Wednesday, saying further US tariffs and spillover effects could lead to the heaviest slump since the height of the COVID pandemic. In fact, the WTO said it expected trade in goods to fall by 0.2% this year, down from its expectation in October of 3% expansion. It said its new estimate was based on measures in place at the start of this week. Just listen in to the Federal Chair's remarks. In fact, before we get that remark for you from Jerome Powell, I must also mention that US stocks fell sharply, hit by a double blow from NVIDIA's China-related warning and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's caution over the economic impact of tariffs. In fact, he warned that President Donald Trump's tariffs are unprecedented in modern history, with effects that remain highly uncertain. Listen in.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. Both survey and market-based measures of near-term inflation expectations have moved up significantly, with survey participants pointing to tariffs. Survey measures of longer-term inflation expectations, for the most part, appear to remain well anchored as well.
This, as you are well aware, now China also faces tariffs of up to 245% on its exports to the US. But gold prices raced to an all-time high on Wednesday, driven by a weaker dollar, trade war tensions, and concerns over global economic growth due to US President Donald Trump's tariff plans, which led to safe haven inflows. Meanwhile, Donald Trump recently expressed optimism about the potential for tariffs to generate substantial revenue, possibly even replacing income tax. In a conversation with Fox, Trump highlighted the significant financial gains from tariffs, drawing parallels with the late 19th century when the US imposed tariffs and amassed considerable funds. Trump stated there is a chance that the money is so great that it could replace income tax, referencing the period between 1817 and 1913 when tariffs were the primary source of revenue in the US. Now, during this era, the US actually experienced unprecedented wealth, with Trump noting, and that's when our nation was relatively the richest, we were the richest. However, Trump acknowledged that any changes to income tax would require congressional approval as the legislative body oversees tax policy. And with that, let's turn our attention now to the other crucial story we're tracking on NDTV. 4 students, including an Indian student, sued the Donald Trump administration for what they alleged was the unlawful termination of their student immigration status, which leaves them at the risk of possible deportation. Chinmay Deore, an Indian student studying in the US, along with 3 other foreign students, has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. And this comes amid the government's immigration crackdown. The students, who are studying at Michigan public universities, took the legal route after their immigration status was allegedly terminated unlawfully. And this development comes amid Trump renewing his attack on Harvard, which is the oldest and richest university in the US, whose federal funding and tax-exempt status he has threatened to remove over its refusal to submit to wide-ranging government oversight. And this brings us to the other big question. Is the American dream over? Well, the American dream seems to be fading for Indian nationals as tightened H-1B visa rules, a 38% drop in student visa issuances, and 20 to 30-year-old green card delays shattering hopes. With artificial intelligence screenings, consular delays, and shrinking job prospects, Indian students as well as professionals are turning to Canada and Germany, leaving US universities and tech hubs reeling from a loss of talent and obviously billions in revenue. Is the great American dream actually over? Vishnu Shom reports.
There are stricter F1 visa rules for students with a 38% drop in issuance in 2024, which discourages Indian students from applying to US universities because of approval uncertainties. There are stricter H-1B policies, including higher fees and a 38.6% drop in the 2025 lottery registrations, making it tougher for Indian nationals to secure visas. What do you mean by lottery, you may ask? Well, because India has gone above its country quota, there are a large number of nationals who, for a limited number of births, get through a lottery system, which is unfair at one level, but that's the way it is. It's all tougher for Indian nationals to secure visas, reducing their chances and deterring US study and work plans. There are waits for green cards as well, sometimes decades. That makes the US education system less appealing. It pushes Indian students who want to go to America, get an education, get a job, and then ultimately move to an H-1B if they are sponsored by a company and ultimately a green card. But if that entire process is difficult, it progressively pushes Indian nationals to go to countries like Germany and Australia. A few years ago, we would have said Canada, but that appears to be changing as well. Visa revocations for minor infractions affect over 300 Indian students. They create fear, leading some to defer or cancel US university applications. There are new AI social media checks, unfairly cancel visas for Indian nationals. Many say that it's unfair, and that creates a fear and uncertainty. There's also a reduced optional practical training or OPT opportunity, which lowers postgraduate job prospects and causes a 28% drop in US-bound Indian admissions. There's a high US tuition cost combined with visa and green card uncertainties, which make alternative destinations like Australia perhaps more attractive for Indian students.
Well, let's switch tracks now. The US Vice President J.D. Vance will be in India from the 21st of this month until the 24th of April. He will be accompanied by Second Lady Usha Vance, their children and senior members of the Donald Trump administration. Do note that this will be Mr. Vance's first visit to India. He will meet Prime Minister Modi on the 21st of April, and his delegation will have other engagements in Delhi. They are also scheduled to visit Jaipur and Agra, is what we're told. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has more on this for us.
President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance, the Second Lady of the United States, are expected to visit India next week. The press release came from the White House that how this visit is expected, as J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, will first visit Italy and then India. The dates are from April 18th to April 24th. And in the first leg of this visit, J.D. Vance will be visiting Italy and will meet the Italian Prime Minister there. When it comes to India, he's expected to meet Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi is also slated to move to visit Saudi Arabia on April 22nd. So it is being sort of arranged that before departing for Saudi Arabia, the Prime Minister will meet Vice President J.D. Vance, who will be here with his wife and Second Lady Usha Vance. Usha Vance's parents are of Indian origin. So this trip is largely professional as well as personal, both for the Vice President of the United States. Now, when it comes to topics and the discussions which he will be having with the Prime Minister, it is expected that talks will revolve around the bilateral trade agreement, which is still in the progress between India and US. And also, this visit comes at a time when President Trump has put a 19-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs. So, bilateral trade agreement, reciprocal tariffs are going to be the key issues which will come up for discussion when J.D. Vance meets Prime Minister Modi next week.
Well, moving on, countries have approved a landmark global pandemic treaty after 3 years of talks and without the US's participation. Now, despite the growing sense of urgency over how to respond to pandemics 5 years after the COVID-19 outbreak killed millions and devastated the global economy, nations stumbled over negotiations about technology sharing. During COVID, rich nations were accused of hoarding vaccines, as you know, and test to the detriment of poorer ones. Experts say that while the treaty wasn't perfect, it was still a definitive moment in the history of global health. However, concerns remain over the US's decision to impose tariffs on pharmaceuticals and reduce global health funding as well. Well, with that, let's turn our attention now to the United Kingdom, where the highest court ruled that transgender women cannot be legally defined as women in a case that could have widespread ramifications for equality protections. All UK organisations will now have legal backing to restrict single-sex areas like bathrooms and changing rooms. A trans woman and former UK judge warned the ruling could be a kicking-off point for more overt restrictions on trans rights, while a columnist for the Conservative Spectator has actually hailed the decision as a victory for women. The judgment was the culmination of a contentious culture that was the debate that has divided the UK as well as the US, where Donald Trump has signed a slate of executive orders targeting trans people. Rights activists are obviously up in arms against this. Well, let's switch tracks now. Tesla, the US-based electric vehicle manufacturer, has been in the headlines for quite some time regarding its entry into the Indian market. Following this, the 2025 Model Y facelift has been spotted on Indian roads. Now, specifically, the vehicle was spotted on the Mumbai-Pune Expressway covered in camouflage. We are, of course, trying to source those visuals for you, but the update is crucial as the brand's first dealership was to be opened in Mumbai, which will sell fully imported cars in the Indian market. Chances are the Elon Musk-led brand will first launch the Model Y in the Indian market, which you can see on your screens at the moment. This seems to be the right move, many say, as the country has seen an increasing demand for SUVs in the recent past. Furthermore, the electric car has been recently updated, making it an ideal choice to step into a new territory, is what some car enthusiasts argue. Well, speaking of Elon Musk, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal met a delegation from Elon Musk-owned satellite internet services company Starlink, and the Starlink delegation comprised of Vice President Chad Gibbs and Senior Director Ryan Goodnight. Vasudha Venugopal joins you with the lowdown on what exactly was discussed.
Well, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has had an important meeting on Wednesday with high-level executives of Starlink. Remember, Starlink is an important satellite and internet services company owned by Elon Musk, a confidant of Donald Trump, the US president, and also the owner of SpaceX. Now, the entry of Starlink in Indian markets will benefit India on two counts. One, of course, it increases the economic feasibility of the country as an attractive investment destination. It improves the credibility of India as an investment destination. And more importantly, it will also help internet reach those remote places of the country that have so far remained completely untouched by existing telecom services. This also improves internet connectivity in India. And remember, in the last few days, telecom service providers such as Airtel and Jio have also announced partnerships with Starlink, which means this company that has been trying to get into Indian markets, facing some kind of regulatory challenges, could finally be making that entry. Piyush Goyal talking about existing partnerships and also prospective investment potential with Starlink makes it clear that the entry of Starlink in Indian markets could be happening soon. When is that going to happen is something that remains to be seen, but clearly things seem to be moving in that direction.
Well, with that, we're slipping into a very quick break. Back in a moment with much more. Do stay tuned.
You've been nominated several times for the Grammys, but what it's been like the last 25 years? Because, you know, music is also a fairly competitive field. It's of course, the search to find your identity is there. You want to do that. You want to probably isolate yourself from the noise. But at the end of the day, the arts as a field is also a very competitive space, isn't it?
I didn't go into music to become an artist. I'd never imagined I'd make an album. That wasn't why I went into music. I went to music to sing. You know what I would do when I started singing? I became a music beggar. I truly would. I heard, for the very first time, I heard Pandit Jasraj sing. And I heard him, I was sitting in the first row because I was a patron of this arts organization. I didn't know who he was. I never heard Hindustani.
Well, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney faced off with his chief rival for the first time during Canada's election campaign on Wednesday in a French-language debate that could help determine who wins the 28th April vote and then deals with the US tariffs. For further clarity on the matter, joining us live from Vancouver at the moment, my colleague Maha Siddiqui. Maha, take us through the key takeaways from the debate as well as the reactions.
Well, this debate in which Mark Carney was expected to perhaps end up with a gaffe or two, he went off smoothly in that, considering that his French is not perfect, as he himself admits. However, in this debate, he was attacked by Jagmeet Singh quite a bit, even the leader of Bloc Québécois, but it went off smoothly for him. So better than expected for Mark Carney there, despite not being excellent at French. This debate was held in Montreal, which is one of the biggest cities in Quebec, which is largely French-speaking. And the debate was also advanced by 2 hours because of a hockey game. Jagmeet Singh had taken that request to the Debates Commission, saying that people should be engaged with the debates and therefore it should not be clashing with a popular game. And therefore we saw all leaders agreeing to advancing this by 2 hours. So it was held at 6 p.m. Eastern time as opposed to 8 p.m. that it was supposed to be held earlier on. And in this debate, as I pointed out, Mark Carney was attacked quite vociferously by especially NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh attacked Mark Carney over several issues with regards to how actually it was Mark Carney himself who was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau, something that Pierre Poilievre also attacked him over, saying that he should be held just as responsible for failures on the economic front as Justin Trudeau. However, Mark Carney seems to have sidelined that issue by saying that this is a question now about who is going to lead the country ahead and be in the best position to take on US President Donald Trump and the threats that are coming in from the US as far as the economic coercion is concerned or the annexation threat is concerned. So his emphasis was largely on that. For others like Pierre Poilievre, the emphasis on attacking the other side, that is Mark Carney, was largely on the issue of housing, inflation, and other such aspects. He spoke about immigration as well. However, this election in Canada is turning out to be a two-horse race, as we're pointing out, between the Liberals and the Conservatives. We have seen the NDP and the Bloc Québécois both losing ground, and that is why we saw the leaders of those two parties being more combative. Pierre Poilievre, who's usually quite combative in Parliament, was seemingly much more calm in this debate today.
Maha, as always, thank you so much for joining us with a detailed lowdown. In other news, the United States has issued new sanctions targeting Chinese importers of Iranian oil. This is ahead of their second tranche of talks. Meanwhile, Iran is dangerously close to developing an atomic weapon. This is what the International Atomic Energy Agency, has warned, hours before the UN watchdog's chief was expected to leave for Tehran. And NASA has released some stunning images of dying stars, offering the most in-depth view of the planetary nebula NGC 1514 to date. Just take a look at these images. They're taken from the James Webb Space Telescope. They show one of the two stars in the center shed its layers of gas and dust as it approaches the end of its life cycle. Switching tracks. In case you're not aware, India's 2025 budget focuses on boosting tourism with over 2,500 crore rupees allocated. The key initiatives actually include visa waivers for select foreign groups, funding for 50 major tourist sites, and a push for spiritual tourism, particularly Buddhism. But India's sustainable tourism is set to grow sixfold in the next decade, as per travel experts. We're already seeing a surge in religious and milestone travel, like for bachelorettes. But what are the defining trends and what is the need of the hour to strengthen sustainable tourism? Take a look at this report by Sakshi Bajaj.
India's sustainable tourism market that focuses on preserving the environment, culture, and local communities is set to grow sixfold from $37 million to $216 million in the next decade, say travel experts. Recent trends reflect a massive spike in villages, pilgrimage, wedding, event, and milestone travel.
I think the pilgrimage tourism is definitely growing in the country. And there are थोड़े और भी trends हैं, जैसे concerts देखने के लिए event based tourism बढ़ गया बहुत. वो अब sport event होगा, match होगा, यहाँ concert होगा, उसके around travel बढ़ गया है. Religious places के लिए new places explore करने के लिए. अब अयोध्या हुआ वो event से trigger हुई demand, उसके बाद भी sustain कर रही है.
वेडिंग टूरिज्म बहुत बड़ा हो गया. मिनिस्टर मेंशन कर रहे थे वेडिंग नाउ एंड वेडिंग आउटस्टेशन वेडिंग. So this has become a very big trend, whether in India or overseas, people are traveling, and I think we are seeing a lot of celebration travel. So milestone birthdays, so people are going out now for a lot of milestone anniversaries or birthdays or bachelor parties, bachelorettes. All of this has now become a very big thing.
The big challenge, though, how to ingrain sustainability into travel and how to make sustainable practices more budget-friendly, especially when it comes to sustainable tourism. Speaking at the Travel, Tourism, Sustainability Conclave, India's tourism minister said a people's movement can bring a big change.
It becomes a people's movement. और आपने देखा होगा प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब खुद हाथ में तसला लेकर के ईंट लगाते हुए दिखते थे, ऐसे फोटोज आते थे, हाथ में झाड़ू लेकर के सड़क पे दिखते थे. हम में से किसी ने भी शायद कल्पना नहीं की होगी कि भारत का नया चुनाव अब प्रधानमंत्री एक नए दौर की शुरुआत जहाँ हो रही है वो झाड़ू लेकर के सड़क पे दिखेगा.
But how exactly can consumers make conscious and affordable choices?
Before we make it affordable, we first need to make people aware कि sustainability है क्या. बहुत सारे लोगों को तो इंडिया में वही नहीं मालूम. Plus, we came from a country which was already sustainable. We knew how to reuse things. We knew how to use less. We have to unlearn a lot of those things and relearn how we once lived. So I think as a country, we already knew sustainability. We need to just go back.
Awareness, relearning, and returning to the roots, along with all stakeholders collaborating, is clearly key to India's path to sustainable development. Sakshi Bajaj for NDTV.
From energy grids to tech breakthroughs to defence cooperation, Prime Minister Modi's fourth visit to Sri Lanka is set to be the most consequential, one that will elevate and reshape the India-Sri Lanka ties from here on. And watch that unmatched non-stop ground coverage on NDTV World with me, Gauri Dwivedi, right here from Colombo.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World. Your new home for global news is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Very good morning. You're watching NDTV 24/7. This is the breakfast show. I'm Divya Vavda. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including Robert Vadra, who has been called in for day 3 of questioning by the Enforcement Directorate. He says they like me a lot, and that is why he's being called again and again. He's saying he's become the voice of the people and that he's almost like an activist. We'll get you all the details. First, let's just get you the headlines. Robert Vadra will be questioned by the Enforcement Directorate for the third very day. He's gone on to say they love me a lot. In fact, the people want him to be in politics. This is day 3. He is expected to reach the ED's office at about 11 o'clock this morning. In the wake of violence that has sparked a war of words between the TMC and the BJP, Mamata Banerjee is criticizing Yogi Adityanath after he attacked Mamata Banerjee, saying that the Chief Minister is silent while Bengal is burning. Now, the Supreme Court intervenes in the Waqf for Law, considers staying certain provisions, and this is the Supreme Court calling the violence in Bengal disturbing. Meanwhile, an interim order is set for today. And the Karnataka caste survey crisis, in which the Karnataka Congress seems to be divided over that caste survey, and it is Siddharamaia's cabinet that's going to be holding a special meeting that's coming up today. And gold prices reach an all-time high. We're talking about gold prices nearing 1 lakh rupees. If you want to buy 10 grams of gold, it's going to cost you 98,100, while experts, including Goldman Sachs, believing that the price of gold is going to go up even further amid global uncertainties. An Indian student is amongst 4 suing the Trump administration. We're talking about Chinmay Dior, who has filed a lawsuit against the US government. The case is over the deportation that is taking place in the United States. This is an exercise against the students in the United States. Let's get to the top story, and this is in regard to the ED that's going to be questioning Robert Vadra for the 3rd time today. The ED has summoned Robert Vadra to be at the ED office again at 11 o'clock this morning. Do remember that he was quizzed again and again by the ED on Tuesday and Wednesday for 5 to 6 hours each. Now, the ED has called him again, and this is in questioning as far as the DLF land deal case is concerned. Do remember this was a plot of land which is about 3.5 acres of land that was procured by the company of Robert Vadra, but in turn was sold for a much higher price. We're talking about the land that cost him 7.5 was sold for 58 crore rupees to the real estate giant DLF. Now, obviously, questions are being raised in regard to the mutation process that took merely 25 hours as opposed to 3 months. And now, while Robert Vadra on day 2 said that he's sort of become the voice of the people, he's almost like an activist, and the government is in fact taking this action because he continues to fight back against the constant allegations, the accusations which are false, and he has gone on to say that the truth will finally prevail. We have Tanushka joining us to get us, we have Anushka, my colleague, joining us to get us the very latest. Anushka, it's round 3 of questioning. What details do we have in regard to the first 2 days that he's been questioned? On day 1, he walked it to the ED office. On day 2, it was Priyanka Gandhi Vadra who came to drop him off at the ED office. What can we expect today? The theatrics seem to be playing out when he reaches that particular ED office.
That's right, Divya. Today is day 3 of the ED summon to Robert Vadra. We did see him on day 1. He marched towards the ED headquarters with a few people. On day 2, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra was in fact also accompanying him to the ED office. She was sitting inside the ED office also, and they went for lunch together. And it was a 5 to 6 hour questioning on both days. Today also at 11 a.m. the ED has summoned Robert Vadra for the questioning. This is regarding to the Shikhopur land deal. We are right outside the ED headquarters, where at 11 a.m. Robert Vadra is in fact expected to be here, just like day 1 and day 2. We'll show you some visuals also of the ED office. Now, regarding this whole matter in this Shikhopur land deal, it has been said by the ED that he bought the land from the Omkareshwar Properties, a 3.5 acre plot in Gurgaon, Shikhopur for rupees 7.5 crore back in February 2008. Vadra's company subsequently sold the parcel of land for 58 crore to real estate giant DLF, suspecting the proceeds to be part of a laundering scheme. The central agency is probing the money trail behind the windfall gains. Now, ED has reasons to believe that in this whole matter, the kind of profit, the kind of windfall profit is much more higher. We are talking about 7.8 crore, and he did sell it for 58 crore. So they are in fact right now recording his statement under the PMLA Act that is related to the money laundering scheme. Today is day 3. We did see Robert Vadra when he came here. He said that this is a political witch hunt and a vendetta of the BJP-led government towards the opposition, and because he was becoming the voice of the people, that is why the government is in fact right now using the ED to confront the people of opposition, to in fact agitate them. That is why they are being summoned by the ED on a regular basis. And he also said that he will continue to fight against it, and he is not afraid, and he will be responding to each and every question that the ED is going to ask him regarding this whole matter. And he has also in fact said that he has done nothing to be afraid of. Over to you.
Right, thank you so much, Anushka, for joining us with those details. We will keep coming back to you, and of course, like we do know, it's 11 o'clock in the morning that he has been asked to appear before questioning by the Enforcement Directorate. Moving on now to Kolkata, and it's the Calcutta High Court that will be hearing the Murshidabad violence case. The deceased victim's family is now seeking an NIA probe into the matter. The Bengal violence has, of course, triggered an SIT that has now been formed in the case. The Bengal police has formed that 9-member special investigation team, and this is multiple petitions that have been filed in the Calcutta High Court on Wednesday in connection with the violence that took place in West Bengal's Murshidabad district last week during protests against the Waqf Act. We have my colleague Shreyashi joining us. Shreyashi, an NIA probe is being requested. This is on accord of the family of the victim. Take us through the details that you have for us. What time is this case coming up in Calcutta High Court?
Well, the Calcutta High Court will be hearing a bunch of petitions. About 5 cases are going to be heard at 12 p.m. today before the division bench. What is there before the Calcutta High Court? Number one, the deployment of central forces. That time limit ends today. We will have to wait and see whether the Calcutta High Court feels that that needs to be extended or not. The state of West Bengal will be submitting a ground report to the Calcutta High Court today on what is the situation on ground, what measures the state government has taken. That will be submitted on behalf of the state government today. Third, there will be the deceased family, the father and the son who were killed in the communal clashes in Dhulian. Their family is seeking an NIA investigation into the murder. And number 4 is that a leader of the opposition and BJP looking at seeking permission to travel to Murshidabad to meet the victims. So the Calcutta High Court is going to decide on all these petitions today at 12 p.m.
Right, petition seeking a probe into the anti-Waqf law violence that erupted. Take us through the details as to the situation on the ground, and of course a war of words that has been played out between the opposition and the government, of course. But take us through, when it comes to these multiple petitions that you're talking about, of course the leader of the opposition also asking to be able to survey the area.
Well, internet remains suspended till the 18th of April. The situation on ground is under control. There have been no fresh violence since last week. Over 250 have been arrested, and SIT has been formed by the police to look into the case. And of course, these are protocols. Now the police, today is the state government's submission before the High Court. That's where we will find out more details about what kind of arrests have been made, how many people have been arrested, what provoked these violence. This is something that the state government is going to be submitting. So we will find out further what exactly led to this kind of violence that killed 3 people. And as far as the families are concerned, there are several families still displaced, and they haven't yet returned to Murshidabad. So that will also remain a concern for the state administration to bring back home safely all those who have fled from their homes. And so far, the investigation is still on by the police.
Right. Thank you so much, Shreyashi. We will keep coming back to you for more on that. Let's just stay with news of West Bengal, and it is the Supreme Court that will pass an interim order this afternoon at about 2 o'clock on the petitions filed against the Waqf law. The court on Wednesday said that it is willing to stay certain provisions of the Waqf law and will dictate an interim order today. The Chief Justice of India said that it was genuinely concerning over the provision as far as Waqf by users, and even said that we are told that the Delhi High Court is built on Waqf land. Not all Waqf by user is wrong, but there is genuine concern here. So, of course, the Supreme Court on Wednesday proposed the order that the properties declared as Waqf, including Waqf by user, won't be denotified, but the centre opposed the suggestion and sought a hearing before such a directive. The Supreme Court there also asking the centre if Muslims would be allowed to be part of Hindu religious trusts. The top court also expressed concerns over the violence that followed the law's enactment and said it was disturbing when it was seized of the matters. Let's just go across to my colleague Nupur, who is joining us. Nupur, of course, this is the hearing as far as the top court is concerned. That will be continuing today as well, and that's going to be coming up in the Supreme Court at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Yes, of course, this will be proved to be a very important hearing as far as this particular act is concerned, and in fact will decide how things will proceed going on from here. As CGI had yesterday said that the hearing in these petitions will take at least 6 to 8 months. Until that time, he proposes to partially stay some of the provisions of this act. Now, some of the provisions that the CGI has opposed and has in fact sought answers from the centre today include the Waqf by user. The Supreme Court said that the definition of Waqf by user is a bit of concern, because there are many properties that date back to 13th, 14th century and even older than that, and they don't have papers and they don't have registration. So those properties, what will happen to those properties? So secondly, it has questioned the powers of the collectors, and thirdly, it has also questioned that how can non-Muslims be members of the Waqf board, and it has said that it will only allow 2 ex officio members to be part of the Muslim who can be from non-Muslim communities, but other members have to be from Muslim communities. So these are 3 key points where the Supreme Court has proposed to stay the newly amended act. Now the centre had yesterday sought some more time from the Supreme Court, and today it will be presenting further arguments. However, the Supreme Court has said that to balance equity, it will most likely today pronounce an interim order. So it will be very important to see that how things unfold today.
Right. Thank you so much, Nupur, for joining us with those details. Let's just get you the latest now to shifting our focus to Karnataka. Divided opinions within the ruling Congress regarding the Karnataka Socio-Economic and Education Survey are expected to be discussed in a very special meeting that's coming up in the cabinet today. So the Karnataka cabinet, chaired by the Chief Minister, will take up that Socio-Economic and Education Survey, popularly known as the Caste Census Report, for deliberation during a special meeting that has been scheduled in Bengaluru. My colleague Deepak has the details.
OBC Wakkaliga caste MLAs from the Congress held this meeting with Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar, who is from the same community. This was held on Tuesday to oppose the caste survey that is before the state cabinet. And now MLAs from both the Veerashaiva Lingayat sect and Wakkaliga caste openly declared their opposition to the survey. The survey's findings could threaten their political dominance, and they accuse it of being unscientific and inaccurate.
ಅದನ್ನು ಒಪ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮನವಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಕ್ಕಲಿಗರು 1 ಕೋಟಿಗಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನೀವು ತಂದಿರೋಂಥ ಜಾತಿ ಗಣತಿಯನ್ನು ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಮರುಪರಿಶೀಲಿಸಿ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನನ್ನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಬಂದು ಕೇಳಿಲ್ಲ.
ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು ಉಲ್ಟಾ ಹುಡುಕತ್ತವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅವರೇ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಡೊಂಗ್ ನಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಮೇಜರ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿಗಳು ಇರೋ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಾಗ ವೀರ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಒಕ್ಕಲಿಗರು ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ? ಇವೆರಡನ್ನ ಎದುರು ಕೆಕ್ಕಂಡು ರಾಜಭಾರಿ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ?
ಲೀಡರ್ ಯಾರು ಕರೆದ್ರು? ಇವ್ರು ಯಾವ ನೈತಿಕತೆ ಇದೆ? ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿ ಏನು 7 ಜನ ಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ಏನಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇವತ್ತು, ಲಿಂಗಾಯತ ಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ರಾಜೀನಾಮೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಬ್ರು ಕರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಕರೆದು ಏನಾರು ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಶಾಸಕರನ್ನ ಏನಪ್ಪ ಎಂತಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
Chief Minister Siddaramaiah, who represents an electoral bloc referred to as Ahinda, which is a counter to the dominance of Lingayats and Wakkaligas, seems keen to use the caste survey to strengthen his political position.
ಅವರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಆಯ್ತಾ ನಾಳೆ ಅಂತಿಮವಾಗಿ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಮಾಡೋದು ನಾಳೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ.
With the kind of pressure that's being built on the government by community leaders and also the legislators, will the government really be able to implement the caste survey after the cabinet meeting is the big question. But more importantly, if they do implement the caste survey or if they don't, the internal bickering for sure is expected to continue within the Congress party. With video journalist Govind, this is Deepak Bopana for NDTV.
Right, and this really comes at a time when special meetings have already been held by Deputy Chief Minister. We're talking about DK Shivkumar meeting with the Vokaligas and the Lingayat community in regard to this. And of course, this is a very special meeting of the cabinet coming up today in order to deliberate on the matter. This is in regard to the caste census. And of course, the caste survey is up for discussion today. But there seems to be a division when it comes within the party itself, within the Congress party. And to know more on that division, we have Deepak joining us. Deepak, what time is this cabinet meeting coming up in Bengaluru? And take us through the divide that you're seeing that seems to be widening by the day.
Well, it's really a very important day as far as Karnataka politics is concerned. Whether they'll implement this survey or not today, that's the big question for Mr. Siddaramaiah right now, who has of course been looked at as a champion of the backward classes. This survey somewhere actually champions the backward classes, but the pressure that's there within, will it really allow him to implement this survey? The discussions are definitely going to happen this evening starting 4 o'clock when the cabinet meets in Vidhan Sauda in Bengaluru. But then with the kind of pressure that we've already seen from the Congress legislators, from the community leaders, from Lingayat community leaders, from seers, it's not going to be an easy one, because right now this survey and the leaked information from the survey suggests that the entire dynamics, the political dynamics really will change. You no longer will have the Vokaligas and the Lingayats as the two most populous communities coming together, but you're going to have, the backward caste, the SC, STs, all of these groups, even the Muslims, all of them combined, which form the Ahinda sect. Now, this Ahinda faction, of course, is something that has completely backed Mr. Siddaramaiah. So there are multiple questions here. Who stands to gain the most? If Mr. Siddaramaiah stands to gain the most, are the other leaders going to stay mum about it? Do they have an option here, considering the High Command, including Mr. Rahul Gandhi himself, has been batting for a caste survey? So these are big questions that really linger right now. 4 p.m. is when the cabinet meeting starts. We'll really have to see what decision will be taken there.
Right, Deepak. Thank you so much. All eyes on that crucial meeting that's coming up in the cabinet in Bengaluru. We will keep coming back to you for more on that. Moving on now to more news, and it's the Karnataka Congress MLA that, of course, we are talking about. This is in regard to Hyderabad, and the story coming out of Hyderabad is of Smita Savarwal, an IAS officer from the Telangana cadre, who received a notice from the police on Wednesday for reposting an AI-generated image of a 400-acre plot next to the University of Hyderabad, which is under, of course, a lot of controversy. Now, Smita Savarwal reshared that post on X that originally depicted an AI-generated image showing earth-moving equipment alongside 2 deers and a peacock. The Telangana government's proposal to auction this environmentally sensitive area for developing urban infrastructure or an IT park has sparked protests led by students. Now, the student bodies and environmentalists have opposed that plan, raising concerns about preserving the ecological balance in the area. Now, we have Uma joining us. Uma, take us through what's really happened here, and why has this person gotten into trouble for reposting of an image that was being shared on the social media site X?
So the Telangana government had in fact filed cases on whoever had posted AI-generated, what they called as fake images on the issue of Kanche Gachibowli, and they had said that they're going to be taking action against them because this is misinformation that is being spread. And they had even said, the State Minister, Mr. Sridhar Babu, even said that the Prime Minister had been misled by his own cabinet colleagues as well on this particular issue. And it is in that context that they had named not just several of the activists and their political opponents, but they had also named Union Minister Mr. Kishan Reddy for having posted an image that was AI generated, and subsequently Kishan Reddy had in fact deleted that particular image that seemed to suggest that animals are running helter-skelter even as JBCs are in operation in the background. So while that was an AI generated image, the notice was also issued to Smita Sabharwal, who happens to be the Tourism Secretary in Telangana, and she had posted an image, in fact a Ghibli image regarding this issue by another handle, and she had just reposted it without any comment. And we are told that the notice was issued more than, what should I say, at least 4 or 5 days ago, and then she was reissued a notice, and she's been asked to come and present what kind of evidence she had and why she had posted that kind of an image. This has been done by the Gachibowli police. But what I would think the government may consider as an act of defiance by this officer is because subsequently she has not only posted certain comments made by the Live Law India on this issue from the Supreme Court proceedings, she has also retweeted a couple of other handles, interestingly, of Revati tweets, who was one of those two women journalists who were arrested by the Telangana government, and she has posted her, reposted or retweeted her post on X, where she's talking about free speech Telangana model and talking about police having booked a case against Smita Sabharwal. She's also posted and retweeted another handle which had raised this question about the freedom of speech in Telangana, and questioning the Chief Minister on this particular issue. So how this will play out is something which would be very interesting to watch, because Smita Sabharwal is someone who is leading from the front for the Miss World contest summit that the Telangana government is planning, and she has been at the forefront of it. At this time, will the government effect any kind of changes, because we are even otherwise expecting a huge bureaucratic reshuffle to happen in Telangana in the first week of May. How the IAS officer is going to respond to this is something that one must wait and watch, because two things are there here. One, about the service rules. Do they specifically prohibit any officer from retweeting content or posting any content on social media? Second, the rule of code of conduct for bureaucrats about how they must behave, and they must take the government line or can they take an opposing viewpoint, is something that would come up for debate.
Right, of course, dating back to other issues that Smita Sabharwal seems to be facing as far as the Revant Reddy government is concerned. Uma, we will keep coming back to you for more on that. Now, let's just get you a quick check as far as Delhi's air is concerned. We're talking about the air quality being in the moderate category. However, AQI is above 200 points, 220 to be precise, on Wednesday. So the air quality improves from the poor category to the moderate category, and this is cleaner air, and that is the initiative of the Delhi government. Is that really working? This is the big question in regard to this. Of course, to know more on this, we have my colleague Anushka joining us. But Anushka, over to you. There are a lot of measures that the Delhi government has promised. They're saying that they're going to start taking these measures and not wait for pollution to go out of hand, and that before winter they'll have measures and control and checks and balances in place. Take us through the initiatives of the Delhi government, and do they seem to be already working? Because we are seeing from the poor category the pollution's come down, but was it the weather that had a huge role to play in this?
That's right, Divya. Pollution was one of the major campaign. That was also the election issue of the Delhi government. They have, in fact, also in their budget allotted a substantial amount of money to the environment and pollution sector. But also we are seeing that year-round basis, they have said that they will be, in fact, creating green corridor. They will start from outer ring road, and that they will be, in fact, doing mechanical sweeping on the whole area of the outer ring road and several other parts of central Delhi as well. They have also, in fact, the Delhi government has gone on to say that the fog misting and the machines will be, in fact, working year round. The mist gun will be, in fact, working at several other places in Delhi NCR. So these are some measures that were taken by the Delhi government with regards to the pollution situation that is, in fact, collectively seen, and it is a year-round problem in Delhi NCR. But yesterday also we saw that the AQI went to a poor category. Today, if we talk about the AQI, it's around 190. That comes in the moderate category. The IMD has predicted that it will fluctuate between poor and moderate category in the following week, but also we are seeing that there is a rise in temperature. The mercury has in fact touched 31 degrees yesterday, and today it is expected to soar at 40 degrees. So Delhi, the people living in Delhi NCR needs to brace for the coming summers, and we also know that the mercury is in fact expected to soar at 40 degrees. For tomorrow and day after tomorrow, the weather body has in fact given yellow alert for thunderstorm and gusty wind of speed 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. So these are the weather conditions that will be expected in the coming days in Delhi NCR. We also know that the pollution right now is at 190 degrees. It comes in moderate category, but in the coming weeks it will be fluctuating between the poor and moderate category. The Delhi government had in fact also said that they will be working on a year-round basis on the pollution problem, but we do see that there needs to be done more with regards to pollution, because once again we are seeing the pollution situation at its April, and we are also seeing that because it's a very scorching heat in the upcoming days that is expected, because the IMD has in fact also said that the mercury will be touching 40 degrees. So people need to brace for the coming summer. Over to you.
Right, Anushka, stay hydrated, and of course, it is going to be very, very hot in the days ahead. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, talking about Delhi and the government there cracking its whip when it comes to the row over sudden fee hike. Delhi private schools are under the scanner, while 600 private schools have been inspected. So this is after the Chief Minister's promise of taking action against these schools. On Wednesday, the Delhi government inspected 600 private schools in the city, issued show-cause notices to more than 10 schools after several complaints of the fee hike. This is the Delhi Directorate of Education informed that district-level committees have been formed to investigate the private schools over complaints of arbitrary and exorbitant fee hikes. These committees, headed by the respective sub-divisional magistrates, also include deputy directors of education, accounts officers and principals of these schools, in fact, that have now cracked their whip when it comes to this price hike, this fee hike of schools. Let's listen in to the Chief Minister, Rekha Gupta, who said that no one will be spared and action will be taken against those trying to harass students and the parents.
क्वीन मैरी स्कूल मॉडल टाउन, आप इनको आज वहाँ बुलाइए सचिवालय और इनको कह दीजिए कि हम इनका जो रजिस्ट्रेशन है ना वो कैंसिल करने जा रहे हैं। आप ये मैसेज देके इनको बुलाइएगा। क्या हुआ बेटा? क्या हुआ?
अपने बच्चों को स्कूल से निकाल दिया।
So Rekha Gupta there, of course, raising concerns, and she says that parents have been meeting me with grievances and that no school has a right to harass parents and children. They have no right to threaten children and hike the fee structure of these schools abnormally. There are rules and there are regulations that need to be followed. If any school is found indulging in all these, that they will have to suffer. We will be issuing notices to all the schools regarding, and that is exactly what has been done by the Delhi government. 10 schools have received those show-cause notices. 600 schools have been inspected in order to know what is it, the kind of action that they have been taking in regard to the fee structure. So, of course, there have been a lot of parents of children studying at private schools, particularly in Dwarka area, that have been complaining. We also know that, there is now strict action that is being taken by the Delhi government, and this is the Chief Minister assuring the parents and the students of stern action that will be taken. But the parents are saying that this is taking time and that, action will be taken by the school against the student, and they are really wanting this to be fast-tracked. Let's just go across to Ishika to know more on this. Ishika, take us through the action that the Delhi government is taking, but in regard to how does one safeguard the interest of the student and from any action that the school perhaps could take against the student if they can't really come up with that kind of fee hike that the school is demanding?
Well, Divya, this issue of fee hike has been, there for long in the national capital. We have seen the parents in different schools. They have been protesting over the exorbitant fee hike. Now, the assurance was given by the Chief Minister, Rekha Gupta, just few days back. And yesterday, if we talk about, there is certainly some action on the ground that we saw from the side of the Education Department of the Delhi government. Now, let me tell you that 600 600 schools have been audited, as it was mentioned earlier. 600 schools have been inspected, their audit reports have been collected, and then 10 schools have been, served with show cause notice. Also, in fact, let me tell you that, when the team, that is the SDM-headed team, they were inspecting schools, they certainly found that there were some schools who were not, in fact, following the rules of filling that audit report. So against those schools, the action has already been initiated. So that is also something big, because, it can result into revoking of the license as well. So certainly the action, if we talk about, has already been initiated by the Education Department, Directorate of Education, against those schools who are not obeying government's orders of, in fact, giving the audit reports. The Education Minister, Ashish Sood, has said that whichever school will be increasing fees without the DOE's permission, their strict action will be taken. Over to you.
Right, thank you so much, Ishika, for joining us with those details. Now, let's just get you more news coming in, and this is in regard to a company that started as a clean energy dream. BlueSmart, the electric ride-hailing startup that promised to disrupt the future of mobility, but the wheels are now coming off. BlueSmart is reportedly exiting its core business and shifting from building a platform to simplify supplying cars for rival Uber. But the real shock lies beneath the surface. We're talking about the EV loans worth nearly 1,000 crore rupees meant to electrify India's roads were instead rerouted through shell firms and lured transactions. This is to the purchase of 42.9 crore luxury flat at the Camellias. Now, over 260 crore remains unaccounted for, and that's not all. Well, 26 lakhs for a golf set, nearly 3 crores to a spouse, and over 6 crore rupees to their mother, what was meant to power electric cars, now powering elite lifestyles. And to know more on this, we have my colleague Tushar joining us. Take us through the details in regard to the action that SEBI has taken against the company, but what will happen to its promoters?
So essentially what we know so far, Divya, is that SEBI has barred Gensol Engineering, Anmol Jaggi and Puneet Jaggi, the promoters of the company, from accessing the securities market for a purported financial fraud that amounted to siphoning of public money for private gains, as you rightly mentioned in your opening remarks. So essentially, the direct fallout of it has been BlueSmart, because Anmol Jaggi is the co-founder of both Gensol Engineering as well as BlueSmart. Remember, apart from the EPC business, the engineering, procurement and construction business of Gensol, Gensol was also an EV leasing company which bought cabs and then leased out to companies. BlueSmart, because of its associations, was one of the primary beneficiaries at favorable lease terms. Now, with Gensol going away, BlueSmart's future looks uncertain, and that can be immediately felt given that BlueSmart has already announced that it's suspending its operations at the Delhi airport until a future time. We also tried to book cabs in Bangalore locally, as well as airport rides. That was also not possible. As well as in Mumbai, the airport rides are now suspended. So essentially, the problem that has happened at Gensol is now reflecting in full in BlueSmart's operations.
Tushar, of course, this is very shocking news coming in regard to this. Of course, now, as you mentioned, BlueSmart is planning to exit its core cab business and shift to operating as a fleet partner of its rival company, and that is Uber. So basically, all the cabs that BlueSmart perhaps owned is now going to be, resold to perhaps Uber, and that is perhaps the plan of the company.
So essentially, the you see behind me is actually an Uber cab. We are at an EV charging station in Mumbai. Now, what will happen, as what we know so far, as reports are suggesting, is that all of these BlueSmart cabs will be leased out to Uber. Now, how that pans out, we have to remember how the deals of contours of these deals will be. We don't know at this point of time. But in the past, both BlueSmart and Uber had joined hands. At that point of time, BlueSmart cabs were registered on the Uber app. Both BlueSmart as well as Uber took a cut from the fare that was charged to customers. We don't know the new contours of the deal now that Gensol is in trouble and the troubles that BlueSmart has faced. So while what Uber does here on, we just have to wait and watch.
Right, of course, Tushar, also break it down for us. How did BlueSmart position itself, and by supplying cabs that were very clean, the drivers were very, very good. It was very punctual. Take us through how did it establish itself in a very short amount of time. The exponential rise that we've seen as far as BlueSmart is concerned in perhaps in less than 2 years. Take us through what set them apart.
So BlueSmart started its operations in 2018 from Bangalore, setting itself apart from the likes of Ola and Uber by offering EV-only cabs. The conversations that we have had with customers and we have also experienced ourselves is that the service was prompt, the cars were clean, and there were no waiting times or surge times as far as the vehicle was concerned. Customers also went out of the way to actually point it out that asking for an AC was not a concern in a BlueSmart's cab as what they may have faced in an Ola or Uber cab in Bangalore. So the customer experience was very good. No complaints from customers as such. The service was prompt in all the airport rides in Delhi, Bangalore and Mumbai. But again, these problems have surfaced, and basically Gensol's problems are now reflecting in what was a good operationally functional company in BlueSmart.
Right, Tushar, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. We also have Nilansh Kabra, Credit CEO, joining us in order to know more on this. When we talk about these startups, that seem to be selling a dream that looks very glitzy, but there are these high-profile startups that are crashing. What is causing this crash, and what kind of checks and balances really need to be put in place?
Hi. So primarily the cause of these crashes, especially with these trailblazing startups, is the fact that they chase super fast growth, whereas there is no accountability for the funds that are being used. There is no accountability for the way the founders are managing the company and the assets. So the only solution to this would be to have regular independent audits, a very strong compliance check team, and multiple levels of approval for the use of funds, to ensure that even these startups which promise super fast growth or promise or trying to achieve something which requires a heavy use of funds, it is ensured that those funds are used for the right purpose and they're not used to fund the founders or their own personal interests.
Right. Of course, let's talk about that. This really shows the true picture behind the pretty picture. We're talking about good cars in comparison to, say, other Uber, Ola cars, perhaps. Talking about their punctuality, talking about there were no cancellations, how clean and good the cars, they were maintained very, very well. But take us through what is the true picture that really lies behind this pretty picture. Are we, when we look at too good to be true startups, do we need to be very cautious?
Yeah, I honestly personally would be. If there are some startups which look too good to be true, coming from a founder's perspective, at times when we see profits or when we see a lot of growth happening, that does go into our heads. So to ensure that, such things which are happening external to us do not affect us internally and do not affect our operations, we need to be very, very precise as to how the company operates, especially when it's at scale. When we are managing thousands of cars, managing crores of money, it has to be done in a specific manner. When companies reach a certain scale, especially if they're borrowing public money, public funds, there needs to be heavy accounting, heavy compliances, and it needs to be ensured that the purpose of the funds is exactly what it was used for. Not just the purpose, but also how it was used. There needs to be public notifications, there needs to be compliance checks, regular third-party audits by independent companies which are specializing in ensuring fraud and compliance. And with these too good to be true companies, I feel it is necessary.
Right, of course, this too good to be true startups often crash and burn. How realistic should their approach really be, and what kind of model should they be emulating?
I feel that most of these startups which look too good to be true try to achieve really high targets in a very short span of time. Lenders or investors, when they put money into such companies, need to ensure that the funds are either given in tranches to ensure that the funds are exactly used for what they were given for, and then the next tranche is given. And then the public needs to keep a cautious eye on them, especially if they're investors in Gensol or other such private-public companies, and even their users or interested with these private companies. They need to ensure that the founders are doing what they were used, what the money was used for. And similarly, the founders need to have a very clean oversight on what is happening in their company. I mean, Anmol Jaggi did something, but the other founders also should have known about this. So it is not just that the people have to be ensured, the lender. It comes from both sides. It's a twofold problem. It's both the investors or the lenders issue, and also the founders issue on their side, that they use the siphon of the money, and then the investors or the lenders do not get a whiff of it.
Absolutely. And Launch Kabra, of course, this case highlights growing concerns about corporate governance in India's startup ecosystem, where rapid growth has often outpaced regulatory compliance. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast this morning. Moving on now to news coming in from the United States, and there are 4 students, including an Indian student, suing the Donald Trump administration for what they've alleged was the unlawful termination of their student immigration status, which leaves them at the risk of possible deportation. We're talking about Chinmay, an Indian student studying in the United States, along with 3 other foreign students who have decided to file a lawsuit against the Trump administration. This comes amid the government's immigration crackdown. The students who are studying at the Michigan public universities took the legal route after their immigration status was allegedly terminated unlawfully. The development comes amid Trump renewing his attack on top university Harvard, whose federal funding and tax-exempt status he has threatened to remove over its refusal to submit its wide-ranging government oversight. Let's just get you the latest when it comes to students studying abroad, whether it's in Canada, the United States, or even in the United Kingdom. There seems to be a fall in the number of students going abroad, particularly in these 3 areas, and one has seen a huge dip in that number. First dip that we are seeing simultaneously in Canada, particularly, as well as the UK and the United States. That has taken place in 5 years. Fewer Indian students are now studying abroad, particularly when it comes to undergraduation education and those courses. So, of course, we're seeing a huge slump amid tight immigration rules. These are rules that have been changed by Canada and the UK, particularly for the pressure it's putting as far as the public transport system is concerned, as well as the housing pressures that seem to be mounting due to a large number of students coming in to study. And US Vice President J.D. Vance will be paying an official visit to India between the 21st and the 24th. He will be accompanied by his wife, the Second Lady Usha Vance, as well as their children. Of course, this is a professional visit, but also a personal one, because they would really want to show their children their roots, the Indian roots as well. They will be making a trip to the national capital, but they are expected also to be traveling to Jaipur and Agra. Ghazali joining us to get us more on this. Ghazali, take us through what's on the agenda.
President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance, the Second Lady of the United States, are expected to visit India next week. The press release came from the White House that how this visit is expected, as J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, will first visit Italy and then India. The dates are from April 18th to April 24th. And in the first leg of this visit, J.D. Vance will be visiting Italy and will meet the Italian Prime Minister there. When it comes to India, he's expected to meet Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi is also slated to move to visit Saudi Arabia on April 22nd. So it is being sort of arranged that before departing for Saudi Arabia, the Prime Minister will meet Vice President J.D. Vance, who will be here with his wife and Second Lady Usha Vance. Usha Vance's parents are of Indian origin. So this trip is largely professional as well as personal, both for the Vice President of the United States. Now, when it comes to topics and the discussions which he will be having with the Prime Minister, it is expected that talks will revolve around the bilateral trade agreement, which is still in the progress between India and US. And also, this visit comes at a time when President Trump has put a 19-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs. So, bilateral trade agreement, reciprocal tariffs are going to be the key issues which will come up for discussion when J.D. Vance meets Prime Minister Modi next week.
Thank you so much, Ghazali, for getting us details of the visit of J.D. Vance, who is going to be here between the 21st and the 24th. They're staying with news from the United States. And of course, after the United States has now threatened with 245% tariffs on goods made in China, gold prices have hit an all-time high. We're talking about gold prices nearing 1 lakh rupees. We have Sakshi joining us. Sakshi, what is causing these prices to hit the roof? So if you need to buy 10 kilograms of gold, you'll have to dish out 98,100 rupees to buy 10 grams of gold. And of course, this is an all-time high. And it is Goldman Sachs that has predicted that gold prices will go up even further amid global uncertainty. And let's get to the latest. It's Commerce and Industries Minister Piyush Goyal, who held a meeting with a delegation from the satellite internet service provider Starlink to discuss the company's current partnerships and explore future investment opportunities in India. So this is a very crucial meeting that was held between the company and Piyush Goyal. So, of course, hinting towards what could really be coming up next. Vasudha has the details.
Well, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has had an important meeting on Wednesday with high-level executives of Starlink. Remember, Starlink is an important satellite and internet services company owned by Elon Musk, a confidant of Donald Trump, the US president, and also the owner of SpaceX. Now, the entry of Starlink in Indian markets will benefit India on two counts. One, of course, it increases the economic feasibility of the country as an attractive investment destination. It improves the credibility of India as an investment destination. And more importantly, it will also help internet reach those remote places of the country that have so far remained completely untouched by existing telecom services. This also improves internet connectivity in India. And remember, in the last few days, telecom service providers such as Airtel and Jio have also announced partnerships with Starlink, which means this company that has been trying to get into Indian markets, facing some kind of regulatory challenges, could finally be making that entry. Piyush Goyal talking about existing partnerships and also prospective investment potential with Starlink makes it clear that the entry of Starlink in Indian markets could be happening soon. When is that going to happen is something that remains to be seen, but clearly things seem to be moving in that direction.
Thank you so much, Vasudha, for getting us those details. And right after that success of the startup Mahakumbh, Piyush Goyal, they're asking what really lies ahead. And of course, it is Dr. Jitendra Singh giving the answer. Well, this is going to be taking place at the conclave in Hyderabad. My colleague Uma Sudhir has the details.
So Hyderabad has been home to institutions of excellence in science, research, technology, and I have with me directors of 3 top institutions in Hyderabad, Srinivas Reddy Garu, Vinay Nandukuri, and also Mr. Prakash Kumar of NGRI, CCMB, and IICT. Hyderabad is going to be hosting the Startup Conclave this month. What are your expectations and what are you going to be showcasing?
So basically, considering the ecosystem in the Hyderabad and also contributions what CSR Lab is making and connecting with startups. So we'll be having exhibition on 2 days, 22nd and 23rd. And where our Science and Technology Minister, Honorable Dr. Jitendra Singh ji witnessing first day, and second day, Kishan Reddy ji, our Minister of Mines, so he will be there with us on 23rd. So in addition to that, we also inviting industry leaders and academician leaders, so they all will be there. So basically to encourage startup culture and also connecting with our CSR laboratories in particular, but overall connecting between industry, academia, and encouraging students to motivate to take up entrepreneurship and also science career also. So
catalyzing innovation and connecting ecosystems, you call this. So how are you going to bring in the stakeholders and what kind of synergy are you hoping to be able to generate?
We are going to have about 60 to 80 stalls where startups which are associated with us are going to display their what and all are they doing. In addition, we will also have few stalls dedicated to showcasing what IICT, CCMB and NGRI do. And then we will have stakeholders, other startups who are in and around will also be invited so that there can be interactions between academic participants, industry, as well as the industry leaders will also be invited. And there will be some kind of an synergy, energy out there which will help us, kind of bring in some kind of an innovation into the culture. And having students, college students specifically, would basically tell them how there are opportunities outside what they know. How people are actually going through entrepreneurship, and that is something that is also a career option that they can think of.
You're director of NGRI. What are the main domains that we are talking about when we say NGRI that perhaps to the common public is not so easily understood, and the understanding about the investment that is required and the human resource that you're hoping to attract, I would think?
Yes. Actually, earth science is one of the most important subject. Actually, it deals with how our Earth planet works. And this is not only that one, but also it deals with the resources. Whatever the resource now we need are all coming from the Earth. And also the groundwater, as you know. We have divide of India is also critically very stressed country for the groundwater, especially the drinking water. So in this direction, the contribution of NGRI is huge. And also we are working in the planetary science also, non-renewable energy resources like geothermal, the shale gas, coal bed methanes. Also, these are the things, whatever we are doing,